Greetings, dear auditors. Welcome to Eduquiz. My name is Chenta Gabriel, and I am a third-year student at the University of Boya in the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, in the Department of Computer Engineering. Today, I'm going to teach mathematics, and I'm going to deal with inequalities in mathematics. So, this is our program. This is what it will look like. Firstly, we are going to do the introduction to inequalities. Secondly, the rules for solving inequalities. Thirdly, the type of inequalities. We'll see all of the 5 main types of inequalities. Then at the end, we'll do some GC questions to finalize. So, to start with, I would start with the introduction. So, what is an inequality? An inequality is just an expression which shows which part of an equation is bigger than the other. So, for example, I'll have an inequality like x is greater than 5. This is an expression which shows that x is greater than 5. So, the main difference between an equality and an inequality, here for instance is an equality. The main difference between this and this is that the answer of this is unique, while the answer of this is a range of answers. So x is greater than 5 means x can be 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's what inequality looks like. So on inequality, we have many signs. We have the greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. We have a not equal to. These are the main signs of inequalities. So now we are going to see the rules for solving inequality. Here was a brief introduction to it. Alright, for the rules for solving inequality, we have few rules. Okay, to solve inequalities, for instance, if you have an inequality like 2x plus 5 is greater than 0, if you want to solve this inequality, for the rules, you have to solve like you are solving it with equal to 0. You solve just like you are solving with equal to 0, just that there are some few things which you cannot do in inequalities, which you can do in equalities. If I want to solve this, I'll have x is equals to, if I send this 5 behind, I'll have minus 5 on 2, I divide all through by 2. This will be my value of x. If it was greater than here, I would have had greater than here too. This would have been my value of x, which is like, I cannot divide all through by 2 if 2 is negative and the sign stays the same. If I divide all through by 2 by negative 2, the sign will have to change. For instance, here I'll have negative 2x is greater than minus 5. But if I want to have x alone, I'll have to divide all through by negative 2. So the sign here will have to change. I'll have x will not be greater than but less than negative 5 on negative 2 is 5 on 2. So that will be the value of x. So those are one of the rules. Also, there's another rule. When we have a rational inequality like x plus 1 on x plus 2 greater than 1, for instance, if you have something like this, a normal person, a normal student will want to, if it was equal to, a normal student will want to just cross multiply. But in inequalities, you cannot do that because you don't know if the sign down is positive or negative. X can be negative 3, which will make the denominator to be minus 1. Negative 3 plus 2 is minus 1. In that case, if you cross multiply, this will change sign. It will not be 1 again. So, you cannot cross multiply. You have to, instead here, bring the 1 behind. You have minus 1 less than 0. So, you cannot cross multiply. In that case, you bring it. Unless you know. You can cross multiply if you know the sign of this. If I have x squared plus 2, I can cross multiply. I can say x plus 1 less than x squared plus 2. If this multiplies this, I can cross multiply because I know that at any time t, x squared plus 2. But if I have x plus 2, I cannot cross multiply because I don't know the sign of this. Or if I had something like modulo or magnitude, I can cross multiply because I know that at any time t, the modulus of anything is a positive answer. Alright, so those are few rules used in solving inequalities. So I'll start with the first type of inequality. So a linear inequality is an inequality of the form ax plus b is greater than 0. Here is a linear inequality. The power of x is 1. So it shows that it's a linear inequality. For instance, for example, I can have 3x plus 2 is greater than 0. Yeah, this is an example of a linear inequality. If I want to solve this, my answer will be, I'll bring this 2, I'll solve it just like it was equal to, but considering the fact that it is greater than. So if it was equal to, I'll bring this 2 behind, I'll have 3x is equal to minus 2. I'll divide all through by 3. I'll have x is equal to minus 2 on 3. Because that will be the same answer. So when I have the answer like this, I put my solution set as every value of x such that x is greater than minus 2 on 3. This is how I solve linear inequalities. Alright, I'll do another example. If I have x plus 5 is greater than 7, here is the same thing. I bring the 5 that way. I'll have x is greater than 7 minus 5 is 2. So this will be my answer. If I find a solution set, I'll have my solution set as x such that x is less than 2. Always put your answer like this. If you leave it like this, this is the solving, but this is the final answer which the lecturer or the teacher will mark. Alright. So let's do one last example. In the case this was minus 2. Alright, in the case this was minus 2x plus 5 greater than 7, greater than or equal to 7. Let's change it a bit. We will have minus 2x is greater than or equals to 7 minus 5 is 2. Here, to have x alone, we have to divide all through by minus 2. So, if I divide all through by minus 2, you remember the rules. When we divide all through by a negative number, the inequality sign changes. So here, I'll have x less than or equal to instead minus 1. Because 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. So this will be my answer. Alright, so this is how to solve linear inequalities. We'll move on to the next. We'll move on to the next type of inequality. Before going to the next type of inequality, if you understood. So, exercise about it. For the exercise, you solve 2x plus 4 is greater than or equals to minus 6. Try to solve this equation and put it in the comments or try to solve it at home to see if you can find it, the answer. Alright, I'll go to the second type of inequality, which is quadratic inequalities. So 3.2, I have quadratic inequalities. Well, quadratic inequalities. So what is a quadratic inequality? A quadratic inequality is any type of inequality of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, or maybe any inequality sign here. So here we can see that the highest degree of x is 2. So it's a quadratic equation. It's an inequality because of the inequality sign. So this is how a quadratic inequality is represented. Alright, so we'll solve an example. We'll have x squared plus x minus 6 is less than 0. Let's solve this for instance. If you have x squared plus x minus 6 is less than 0, we solve it just like we have an equal to sign here. If you had an equal to sign here, what are we going to do? The first thing we see, when we see this, we try to factorize. So we find the factors of this thing. To find the factors, we can either use, there are many methods. You can use the cover-up method, you can use the formula method, as most students like to use, or you can use any method. Which one you multiply, you have AC. A here is the coefficient of x squared, which is 1. 1x squared is the same like x squared. and C is minus 6. So two numbers, which when you multiply you have AC, and which when you add you have B. B is the coefficient of X, which in this case is 1. So I have to find the factors of minus 6. So one of either minus 6 is that when you multiply. So if I add minus 1 plus 6, I can never have 1. So it's just this. I have to know the values, the signs now. So if I put minus 2 times is 1. So when I factorize, since I have minus 2 and 3, I'll have x minus 2, x plus 3. I'll put back my inequality sign. It was less than, okay, less than 0. Now I have the factors. If this was equal to 0, how will you continue here in this case? You will take each factor and find the critical value. To find the critical value, let me put it back. To find the critical value, take each factor. Here we consider this to be less than 0. X minus 2 is, well, when using critical factors, you don't put less than 0, you put equal to 0 normally. X minus 2 is equal to 0, which means x will be equal to 2. This is your first critical value. So on the second critical value, you have x plus 3, which is this, is equal to 0. X will be equal to minus 3. Remember, to have these critical values, you take each of the factors one by one. You just make x subject of formula and have your critical values. When you now have your critical values, like so, what you do next is you draw your number line. So you draw your number line to know the values of x, which will be less than 0 from that number line, with critical factors as 2 and minus 3. So what I will do on my number line, I'll write the smallest number first. In this case, it's minus 3. The next number is 2. So I'll find a number which is less than minus 3. For instance, I'll take minus 4 and replace it here. I'll take the sign of the answer. So if I take minus 4, so if I take minus 4 plus 3, the answer will be negative, is minus 1. Positive answer. So here we have a negative and positive. You can just feed it yourself. Like this. You have to calculate for everything. So since all of them are of degree 1, you put plus, minus, plus. If all of them were of degree 2, you can still do plus, minus, plus. If they have different degrees, then you have to take a value here, which is, for instance, minus 4 that I took. Then you take a value here as 0. Take a value here as maybe 3. If you don't trust this answer, we can still choose another value of x, which is 0, in between minus 3 and 2. Let's put 0 and see if the sign will be negative. Okay, so when we put 0 here, we have 0 minus 2 is minus 2. We have a negative answer. 0 plus 3 is plus 3. So a positive answer times a negative answer times a positive answer will always give a negative answer.